Welcome to the TalentGrow Show, where you can get actionable, results-oriented insight and advice on how to take your leadership, communication, and people skills to the next level and become the kind of leader people want to follow. And now, your host and leadership development strategist, Halelly Azulay.
Welcome back to the TalentGrow Show. I'm Halelly Azulay, your leadership development strategist, with the last episode of 2016. So it will be a solo episode and a shorter one, as most of my solo episodes are. As regular listeners know, that most of the episodes on this podcast are actually interviews that are in the 30-minute format. But sometimes I pepper in a couple of solo episodes here and there to share some knowledge and insights from yours truly. So as I look back at the year of podcasting in 2016, I wanted to share with you the top 10 most downloaded episodes of 2016. That is the ones that were published in 2016 that were most downloaded. And because some of the episodes that were actually the most downloaded were some of the ones that are older, but that's probably because they've been around longer. So they continue to add the numbers and it's unfair competition towards some of the newer episodes. And then I wanted to share a networking tip with you and a challenge. And the challenge is going to be for you and for me. So let's first talk about my year in podcasting. So it's been a great year. I release the podcast on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, like clockwork. And I really enjoy that. And based on your downloads for 2016, here are the top 10 most downloaded podcasts. And I'll start with 10. So episode that was 10th in downloads for this year was episode 27, From Busboy to Big Kahuna, Leadership Lessons from Hilton's Chief Learning Officer, Kimo Kippen. And I loved the lessons that Kimo shared in that episode about how he did really start as a busboy in the Marriott chain, worked all the way up to the C-suite, and then hopped on over to Hilton, where he is not only, I think he might not actually, at this moment, he's no longer the Chief Learning Officer, but he is the brand ambassador, and he's doing some amazing work there. And lots of good lessons there. All right, number 9 was a solo episode. Yay, I am in the top 10. And that was episode 38 with the 10 conversations every leader should have with every employee. And that was an interesting episode because I released it in 3 different formats. I had it as a blog, and then I released it as a vlog, which is a video blog, and also as a podcast. So you can see it or listen to it or read it, however you prefer to learn. And I think that every leader should have these 10 conversations, and of course others as well. But if you didn't listen to that one yet, go grab it. All right, number 8 is episode 22, which was how to handcraft your dream job and how to make work better, with my friend and colleague Chip Joyce. And that was a good episode for learning about organizational culture and also about how very creative Chip was in going after the job that he wanted. When it didn't exist, he just made it. And I love stories like that. I think they're very inspiring, and I really am happy when I get to share that with you, because I want to inspire you to think outside the box in terms of how you want to work and where you want to work and with whom you want to work and about what you want to work. Number 7 is episode 26, and that was Career Success and Philosophy with Don Watkins, who is also a friend of mine. And that too was kind of an interesting episode in that it focused a lot on career development and career success and how to forge your own way. And Don is a philosopher and a writer. And so he gave us a little bit of a different perspective than most of the guests I usually have on about how to marry the idea of philosophy and what's the right philosophy to have in terms of achieving your top performance and also inspiring and motivating and leading others to top performance. Number 6 was episode 25, how to be a more engaging communicator. Yay, hooray, that was me again. So I'm happy. That means that y'all like the solo episodes, and that's good news. Like I said, I don't do them regularly, but I do maybe it's like every 4 or 5 episodes, I throw in a solo episode. So that one is actually based on one of the most popular blog posts I ever had about how to be a more engaging communicator. Number 5, episode 31, The Coaching Habit, How to Say Less, Ask More, and Lead Better through 10-minute coaching conversations. And that was with Michael Bungay Stanier. He is a funny guy I really admire, also a friend of mine and a mentor. And this podcast episode was all about how you could, as a leader, also be a coach to the people that you lead with these very short 10 minutes or less conversations. And Michael shared really specific examples of the kinds of conversations and questions that you can ask. Number 4, in the top 10 most downloaded 2016 episodes of the TalentGrow Show was episode 35, Workplace Poker, How to Handle Backstabbers and Promote Yourself Positively Without Being Like Donald Trump. And that was with Dan Rust. Dan Rust wrote the book Workplace Poker, and he gave really great advice about how to play the game so that you don't get played and how to do it in an authentic way with integrity. And we threw in Donald Trump into the title because, well, for one, it's provocative during this election year. And this was before he was, before he was elected as president-elect, and while he was obviously in the news all the time, but also because Dan Rust actually mentioned him as part of his example for one of his points. So you'll have to listen to see what he meant and why he mentioned Donald Trump. As a little side note, when I released my newsletter, which is a newsletter that I send out to people who opt in to receive it twice a month, it's very short and very actionable, always has a quick tip in it, and always has a link to my latest blog post and my latest podcast episode. So I hope that you're on that list. And if you're not, let's get that fixed, shall we? And so when I released the newsletter that had this episode linked in it, of course, I went for the controversy in the title of the newsletter as well. And I did get a little bit of hate mail from people who got really mad that I said something bad about Donald Trump. One particular person didn't want to get my newsletters anymore. Oh, well. I wasn't saying he was bad. I was just saying, I was just mentioning the tip from my guest on my podcast episode. But you have to listen to it. So it's episode 35 if you're curious. All right. Number 3, episode 37, How to Make Better, Faster Decisions with Jeff Anello. And Jeff is one of the authors of one of my favorite newsletters, Farnham Street. And he's a really, really smart guy. And he focuses a lot on decision-making and thinking errors and thinking biases. And he geeks out on the work of Charlie Munger and, Mungerisms, as he calls them. So he shared several with us on that episode. It's great. I love it. All right. Number 2, episode 36, Fierce Leadership, Radical Transparency, and Deeper Human Connectivity with Susan Scott from Fierce Inc. I got a great email from a listener on that episode that told me that she listened to this episode on her drive into work that day, and she had an issue with a coworker. And at first she was just going to go with her usual approach, which was just to try not to talk about it. But because she listened to this episode about radical transparency and fierce conversations, she was motivated and inspired to go ahead and have a conversation with that colleague. And she wrote back to say that it went really great and it actually increased the level of trust between them rather than damaged it, and she was all the better for it. So she was pleased that she had listened to this episode, and it really made a big difference. And I love that review. So thank you to that listener and whoever else has left a review for the podcast, because that just makes such a big difference in terms of how other people can find the podcast and also decide to listen to it, to give it a try. So if you haven't yet left us a review or a rating on iTunes, it really doesn't take a long time and it makes such a big difference. I mean, really, you just have to write like 1 or 2 or 3 sentences. And if you don't want your name to appear, you can even use some kind of a pseudonym. So I beseech you to please do that for me. That would be a huge gift you could give me in return for the podcasts that I give you. And I thank you in advance. All right. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. The number 1 most downloaded 2016 episode was episode 34, How to Be a Great People Manager. Learn from one manager's leadership development quest with Jeremy Epstein. And Jeremy is such a great guy. Very, how would we describe him? He's very transparent and very charming and very real. He is not like an expert on leadership, but he was just a manager who got some negative feedback that stung at first. And then he just turned it around and approached it like he approaches any problem and just went with gusto on how to develop his leadership skills, on his people management skills. And spreadsheets and the whole gamut. So he shares a lot of those insights with us on that episode, and it was the most popular episode of 2016. So Jeremy, thank you. If you're listening, I appreciate you. And those who are listening today, I appreciate you listening here. And so here's the tip and the challenge that I promised. I speak a lot about networking, and I write about it. In fact, I'm working on publishing a book about networking without the ick factor. And one of the things that comes up a lot in the workshops that I lead about networking is, people always feel like the biggest barrier that they have to networking is it's always a tie or sort of a competition between two specific barriers. One is that they don't feel like they have enough time. And two is that they feel shy or uncomfortable doing networking, what they perceive of networking. So we talk a lot about what does networking actually mean and what it's not. And networking does not have to be going to big events where you have to just go around shaking hands, having small, meaningless conversations with strangers you don't care about. It really doesn't have to be that, because networking is actually about starting and building and nurturing meaningful, mutually beneficial, long-term relationships. And that doesn't happen in an event, although of course it can start with a conversation with someone you meet at an event, or you could nurture an existing relationship by running into someone you know at an event and connecting with them again. Of course, events can play a role in networking, but networking does not equal events. It does not equal small talk. So if you think about networking as relationship building, and mutually beneficial relationship building means give and take. And I always suggest that you actually stack the decks in favor of the give on your end. So always start with give and give more than you take. Because that way, if you ever need a favor from anyone, if you ever need help from anyone, because you've given more than you've taken in that relationship with that person over time, they're going to go bonkers trying to help you. They're going to be super eager to help you because of human nature and reciprocity, that reciprocity need we have. But anyway, here's the thing. You can also do networking ongoing in small, tiny little increments. And sometimes I use the metaphor of brushing teeth to help people think about networking differently. If you think about brushing teeth, I think that most people brush their teeth regularly, right? Most of us do. And we do it because we recognize that it's in our benefit, and it's a habit that we've built over many, many years. And if we peel back, and if you have kids or know people with kids, you know that it's not something we're born with. And it certainly isn't something that we welcome as kids as a habit, right? When you try to teach kids to brush teeth, you kind of have to fight them for a while, maybe years, to get them to just get into the habit and stop wanting to skip it. Because most people just are not doing it because they love it. They're doing it because it's just a habit and they just do it. And I would also venture to say that most people don't hate it anymore. Maybe when you were a kid, you hated it and you had to do it and your parents forced you to do it. But at some point, you just sort of make the switch to, okay, I just brush my teeth. Well, we can make networking be a habit that we build, a practice that we incorporate into our daily life that doesn't take a long time and that doesn't take a lot of resources from us in terms of decision making. We just do it. And it could be something as simple as I could write a thank you note or email or in person thank someone that I know today, every day for some period of time. How long does it take to write a thank you email? So that could be a networking practice because you are feeding your relationships. Another example could be that you might say, okay, every day or once a week, I introduce two people that I know that should know each other and make an introduction. Okay. And in another episode, I think it's an episode, maybe it's a vlog, I talk about how you should make it a double opt-in. But anyway, that doesn't take very long. And you could just make that a habit, like, do it at some frequency that you decide on, and then you just do it. Right? Or it could be, what article could I send to whom every day? And that means you're sharing insights, you're sharing something helpful, and you're feeding that relationship. Or it could be, I'm going to meet 3 new people every day. So that means that when I'm at the coffee shop, or at the water cooler, or in the grocery store, or at the PTA meeting, or in the elevator, or wherever it is that I'm going to meet 3 new people today, every day. Or that could be one person, right? So you can make whatever amount of work, whatever duration you want to. But if you start small and just build it into habits, then all of those things add up in the long term to help you maintain and nurture meaningful, mutually beneficial relationships. So my challenge to you and to myself is, let's make 2017 the year in which we build a habitual toothbrushing style networking habit. And I would love to hear, what is your networking habit that you're willing to commit to that's going to be very similar to brushing teeth, that you're just going to do regularly? Please put that in the comments, because I would love to hear from you and get a conversation going. So the comments are going to be on the show notes page, which for this episode is www.talentgrow.com/podcast/episode 44. Well, there you have it. That's my review of 2016 and my challenge for you and me in 2017. Of course, there are lots of other things you should be doing in 2017, but this could be such an easy win and a small thing that you could do to take your networking skills to the next level. And I think as a result, take your career and your personal success to the next level. So as always, thank you for listening. I am very grateful to you. I wish you happy holidays and a very happy new year. And I look forward to talking with you more in 2017. Make today great.
Thanks for listening to the Talent Grow Show, where we help you develop your talent to become the kind of leader that people want to follow. For more information, visit talentgrow.com.